Hello, everyone. It is me, Danielle J. Mitchell, your up-and-coming queen of real estate, and I'm here for another episode of Tuesday Tip at 2. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. It is me, Danielle J. Mitchell, queen of real estate, social media extraordinaire. And listen, I am here to give you today's and this week's Tuesday Tip at 2. Listen, first, let's get this out the way. I need you to go to book.djmrealty.co. If you are interested in buying or selling, and you live in Pennsylvania, more specifically, the Philadelphia area and surrounding suburbs, such as Montgomery County, Delaware County, I'm here for you. Okay? I'm here for you. I'm here to service you. Yes, people are still buying. Absolutely. People are absolutely still selling. We really need you to sell because inventory is still and continues to be low. So if you're interested, again, go to book.djmrealty.co.com and schedule your consultation today, whether you're a buyer or a seller. And another thing, guess what, guys? I'm doing a social media class. Yes, I am a full-time real estate agent, but because of real estate, I have to market myself, right? I have to market myself. And because of that, sometimes other things grow, other things bloom, right? And so because of feedback, because of people wanting to learn not just about real estate, but also how you do what you're doing, well, I have a class for you and to help you get started. It is December 17th. It is virtual. It is 10 a.m. And you can go to register.djmrealtyco.com. Register.djmrealtyco.com. Registration open. It's only $25. And taking that class will get you first dibs on some other. Even if you can't make it that specific day, I will be sending out the recording. So don't worry. You can still have access to the class. So we are doing kind of a follow-up to what I talked about in last week's episode, which was discrimination in real estate, racist realtors, racism in real estate, right? What does that look like? And I actually thank you for all of those who watched. Thank you for the new subscribers. I'll have to welcome you guys and thank you. But thank you for all who watched. It's actually trending with more views than the average Tuesday Tips at 2. So I appreciate it. And I get it because it's a attention grabbing headline, of course. But it is happening. Nonetheless, it's not clickbait. It may seem like it, right? It may grab people's interest, but it is something that is happening more often than we think, right? And so today we're going to cover this part 2. We're going to dive into discrimination in real estate on the lending side. And it's happening more than we think. It's a little bit harder to track. It's a little bit harder to put your finger on, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, right? Because it's just like, oh, well, I just didn't get a pre-approved, or I'm just not done yet, or I'm not ready yet, or I just can't, right? And unfortunately, this absolutely does happen. Every lender should be an equal opportunity provider, right? So if you fit the criteria, you should be able to get pre-approved. But unfortunately, there are lenders who are not practicing that. So let's go over it. Let's dive into it. Okay. Again, this falls under the Fair Housing Act, falls under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. And what does the discrimination look like? FHA says race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, handicap, right? Which is very similar to what we talked about already as it pertains to the FHA, specifically in real estate. But this also adds, because of course with lending, they take into account your credit. This says it prohibits the same things: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, marital status, age, and applicants' receipt of income from a public assistance program, as well as applicants exercising good faith of any right under the Consumer Credit Act. Okay, so those things are very crucial and important. So you can't turn somebody away if their income is based on getting public assistance, or getting it from a public assistance program, which was news to me, and very good news. But I want to talk about the predatory lending side, right? So this is saying, hey, no collateral or equity stripping, right? And it explains what that looks like. The practice of making loans that rely on liquidation value of a borrower's home or other collateral rather than borrower's ability to repay, right? Inadequate disclosures, not fully disclosing things, risky loan terms and structures. 1 minute you're paying, 500 for a loan, then, 2.5 seconds later is 2,500, right? Padding or packing, the practice of charging customers unearned, concealed, or unwarranted fees, right? Flipping, the practice of encouraging customers to frequently refinance mortgage loans solely for the purpose of earning related fees. Okay. Anytime you want to refinance your home, it has to make sense, right? So there's no point in finance if you have a fantastic interest rate. There's really no point. And, you're not into buying. It's not an emergency situation where you need to take out equity for your house, right? Single premium credit insurance, the requirement to obtain life, disability, or unemployment insurance for which the consumer does not receive a net tangible financial benefit. Okay. So, that just went over some of the predatory lending that's out there, some examples, and that you have to be mindful of. Okay. The next thing is, we went over this again last time when I talked about this previously with real estate and housing. What does it look like to discriminate money to otherwise withholding financing for housing based on protected class? So you cannot withhold financing. The only way a lender can withhold it, if you are if you have your credit score is where it should be. That your credit score is 60/20. That you're have 2 years of steady income. These things. You can't just be denied just for the sake of being denied. And people have to come back with concrete evidence and reasons as to why, right? So let's give an example. They provide an excellent example of this, which is a mortgage lender has a pattern of avoiding, seeking, or making home loans in certain neighborhoods because they are heavily African American or Hispanic. Okay. That's a great example. Some people don't want to lend in certain areas because, we know Philly, the crime rate is very high. And some people are like, I'm not lending in that area because the crime rate is high. Well, that's not for you to determine. And that's not your business. It is your job to lend. That's your only job. Your job is not to determine the area or, deter people from areas, or even if it's like, because, lenders will ask, what area are you looking to buy in? They can't say, oh, you can't go in this area. They can't say, oh, you can't buy in this area. Or, even if they drop a line saying like, hey, you can't afford this area, and they're not telling the truth. There are some areas that may not be affordable because of taxes, and it will throw off your debt to income ratio. But if it is a lie, that's a problem, right? And that is, in fact, redlining, right? So let's talk about it. Redlining is the practice of denying a credit-worthy applicant a loan or housing in a certain neighborhood, even though the applicant may otherwise be eligible for that loan. Again, we talked about this last time. This whole idea of redlining, it's not a good thing, right? So it is historically something that has been done in the past, as I mentioned before, and it's still happening. And how do I know that some of these discriminatory practices are still happening? This is how I know. Because it's in the news. And this is recent. It is in the news. And this is one of the biggest lending companies in the country. Okay. Is it attached to one of the biggest real estate companies in the US of A, right? And, they had to pay for discrimination practices. It's happening, guys. And a lot of times, people want to turn the other cheek and be like, how can it happen? It can. And this is an extensive interview that goes through some of the things that were happening. One that was happening at this particular mortgage company, distributing racist language and messages about certain neighborhoods, right? So this was saying that, hey, several loan officers, assistants, other employees received and distributed emails containing racial slurs and racist content. In addition to uses racist tropes and terms, communication sent on work emails include pejorative content, specifically related to real estate properties, locations, and appraisals. The racist content also targeted the people living in majority minority neighborhoods, right? Another thing they were hit on was avoiding sending its loan officers to market to majority minority neighborhoods. I like to connect myself with lenders that I know are going to do right by my clients, whatever they look like, whatever age they are, no matter what, right? I like to use people who get the job done, who can make the process as easy as possible. And even for the hard cases, because, some people are, have everything working for them, their credit, their savings, all that good stuff. And some people do not, right? So I like to have lenders who can work with some of even the harder cases, because everybody deserves an opportunity to own real estate, right? And there were certain mortgage lenders like this one that you just knew not to send people to, because it just wouldn't work out in their favor, unfortunately. Or they wouldn't get, maybe the lending amount wouldn't be as high as one would think it should be. So just saying. Anywho, moving on. Developing marketing campaigns and advertisements that discourage and ignore minority mortgage loan practices. Okay. So, they were forced to pay up some money and do all that good stuff, but it is absolutely happening, guys. Because it's happening, because people want to help. Some lenders out here do want to help minority communities. And so Bank of America is introducing this affordable loan solution. There's pros and cons to this program. It's pros and cons to getting a mortgage with Bank of America in general. But I will say I can appreciate their efforts to serve an underserved community. I'll just put it that way. Do your research. Do your research is what I'll say. Okay. But again, at least they're trying to lean in the right direction. That's all I have for today. That's all I have for today. So if you feel as though someone is practicing some shady lending practices, then you can absolutely contact your attorney general, your state attorney general. Just go ahead to their website and, follow the prompts where you can file a claim. And of course, use your Google machine as well. As I stated before, everybody deserves an opportunity to live where they want to live, to be able to have access to things that will help make things easier for them, which of course is being able to get approved, especially if, you've done the work, you maybe had to do the credit repair, you had to save and do all those different things, and somebody is denying you when you know that you did everything that you were supposed to do, and again, it's very unfortunate because there are people who absolutely don't know. There's so many people who don't even know. I remember, like I said, in this business, you hear a lot, and you hear stories. I've heard stories from buyers who've been told, "Oh, your credit score is not high enough. Like you have to have a credit score of 700," and it's not true. So having a credit score of 700 is fantastic and up, right? But that's not even true. That's not. It's inaccurate information. It's not even, it's just a lie. And that's what makes it frustrating. Now I tell my clients all the time, hey, you need at least this. If your credit score is higher, that's better, right? I always tell people that you need at least this much saved. Like people will tell folks, hey, you need 30,000 in the bank and you need over 700 credit score before you can even talk to me, right? That's not true. It might be, depending on your price point, as far as the savings, right? But to just have that be a blanket statement for anybody, it's just not accurate, right? For FHA loan, which is a federally funded loan that helps people who don't have the best credit score, you need 620. At least 620 is best. Some accept 580, but when you get that low, the problem is that your down payment is going to be a lot larger, and your interest rate is going to be very high, right? So I even tell people who have those over credit scores, you might find a lender that will lend to you, but it's going to, by the time they charge you, 10% for a down payment and that high interest rate, what's your affordability going to be like, right? So being at that 620 and higher, I tell people the higher your credit score is, the better. But if you're able to get pre-approved, you're able to get pre-approved, right? So that is all for this week's Tuesday Tip 2. Listen, go to book.djmrealty.com. Okay, schedule that consultation. Let's talk about it. And remember, there's no place like home buying. I want to see you at my social media class. And otherwise, I'll see you next week for an all new Tuesday Tip.